Hello, Paul Wilkinson here. This is a video talking about some of the greatest piano technique books I've read over the years of being a pianist for 30 years or so. A lot of them I find absolutely no use to me whatsoever, but there's a handful of books that I found fascinating. So you may find these books interesting to explore if you are a student of piano or if you are a teacher. I mean, it's that dreaded word, piano technique, which is a scary word. So I like to replace that word technique with the word piano gadgets, because technique often scares young people away. So I'm going to let you into a few secrets really about my piano technique and some of the things that I found really useful. So there are a number of books, and I have hundreds of piano technique books, and I've read many, but there's a handful that I find absolutely fascinating, and I'll save the best till last for me, because there's one book that I have used throughout my teaching and throughout my playing to make me have a very lucid and light and effortless control, and not a tiresome control, so I have the ability to play for a long periods of time. So anyway, more about that in a moment or two, but let me just go through a few of the other books that I think are absolutely fascinating. If you could ever get hold of a copy of this book, the Guy Mayer book, this book is absolutely fantastic. It deals with a lot of practical issues, and I would really recommend, as you can see my copy is rather old and antiquated, but I would recommend that if you can get hold of it. It's from a collections of writing that they did years ago in the Etude magazines, but if you can get hold of that piano book, I would heartily recommend it. That's by Guy Mayer. That's an absolutely fantastic book. Another book I got a few years ago, which I think is wonderful, is a book of just barely musings by, I think it's Barbara who did it, Barbara Alex who did it, and this book's wonderful. My wife bought me this directly from Barbara a few years ago, and this is a great book actually, which has some lovely thought-provoking issues regarding piano technique by Georgi Shebok, this amazing pianist, an amazing teacher. You will actually, if you go on YouTube, let's make sure you can, I'm putting that the right way, that's that way. If you go on YouTube, you'll find a couple of his workshops, and they're fascinating to watch. So really worth interest in. That's Georgi Shebok. Looks like Sibok. And I would go investigate those YouTube videos. You may find that really insightful, and he's talking about technique, the true essence of music, really. They're really fascinating. Another great book. This is a rare one. This is a rare book. This is by Luigi Bospensiero, and it's New Pathways in Piano Techniques. I don't think I can put into words really what this book's about by saying it in a few sentences, but I would recommend, if you ever see it in a charity shop, I would recommend getting it. It's talking about the way that we sense and find notes using ideokinetics. It's not a Hanon studies book, it's a really interesting book. It's a different approach, more of a Zen approach to playing the piano, but it's an absolutely fantastic book. And finally, I saved the best till last. My piano teacher fundamentally taught me this technique of playing and philosophy of playing, and that is by the American piano teacher called Abbey Whiteside. She wrote two books. She wrote one called Indispensables of Playing the Piano and Mastering the Chopin Etudes. Now I also have I'm lucky I have an original copy of Indispensables of Piano Playing. And this is a fascinating book, and I owed out a lot of my piano facility and technique down to Abby Whiteside's book. It's not about endlessly practicing scales. She uses words like splashing and outlining. She talks about the fulcrum of the body, how the whole body has to be involved when we play. I mean, it's a book you have to read really to put into action, but it's a book I use daily in my piano teaching with students with different technical issues. So Abby Whiteside, she did have she was controversial, but she had that habit of, when somebody walked into her piano study, she knew that everybody was different, and we're all autonomous, we're all unique, and she knew how to sort of find a way. And one student would come in and couldn't play the piece, and the next one could, and she was fascinated how she could help that student. So these different phrases you get about what she calls outlining and splashing. Finding the pulse of the music, and things like she would make her students keep going even if they were doing a full fist palm on the piano, in a concerto to finish it. So this book, this is the newer version. This is Abby Whiteside's on Playing the Piano. I heartily recommend that. Here's my original older copy, which is well thumbed, and I know I have certain pianist friends who use this daily in their piano technique, It is a very, very useful book. If you're a jazz pianist, there's people like Fred Hirsch, the American jazz pianist. If you watch him play, and if you watch myself play, you'll see that we use the whole body to play, not just the fingers, not just finger tappers, but the whole fulcrum, using the whole body, the whole shoulders, the whole torso to play. So that's a little insight maybe to a different approach to piano technique, which is not often discussed. But I was very fortunate to meet a remarkable man who was schooled in this method. I don't mean school as in schooling. I mean schooled in this method of passing on this tradition of Abbey Whiteside, and I would really explore it. So that's a top secret tip into the way that I play the piano, and the way that I don't just rely on these digits to play, but use my whole body to play, just as you would when you're closing a window or vacuuming or brushing up leaves. You know, that you use your whole body to play, your whole being, because you know music doesn't come from here. You know, it comes from here and here, doesn't it? So this is a really fascinating book and well worth reading. So that's a little insight. Abbey Whiteside, Indispensables of Piano Playing. I recommend that you investigate that book. So thanks for watching that, and let's use a different word here. Let's use piano gadgets, not technique. Okay, thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.